Well, hello and welcome to Battle of Champions, coming to you live from Melbourne. You saw those visuals of Virat Kohli. It is his 34th birthday, but all the celebrations will have to halt tonight because tomorrow is another day. It's a very important game for India. It's a must-win situation. We'll talk about the birthday and the celebrations a little later, but we'll focus on the India game before that. I'm Nikhil Naz. Joining me, as always, is Sunny Gavaskar. Before I talk about this game, let's talk about Australia, the defending champions, playing in their own backyard, are out of the T20 World Cup.
Well, sometimes it can happen. I think even India struggled in 2016. They got to the semi-finals, but sometimes maybe the familiarity with the conditions can make you just a little bit more relaxed. The crowd support can make you just a little bit more relaxed. But you got to say that they never really got off to a start, and when the captain is not in good form, then the pressure builds on the rest of the team because the media is questioning, what is the captain doing in the 11? Should he not be, should he not be making way for somebody else? He quit the one-day game. They retired from the one-day game just before this tournament started. So clearly, I think questions are being asked whether he should stay. And now I think maybe in a couple of days' time, you'll probably hear the news that he's quitting T20 internationals as well.
As Sanibhai says, they never got off to a good start, but see the way the tournament has panned out, they've actually just lost one game. The other important game was rained out. One loss and then they're out of the running of the semi-final. That happened to South Africa last time around, if you remember. So that's how competitive sometimes these group games are, and you have to win. I think that loss versus New Zealand, from there, they never recovered. Sanibhai, now looking at this game, I understand Sri Lanka are Asian champions, but they also never got going, never showed that kind of form that Asian champions did. So you thought England were the overwhelming favourites, but Sri Lanka really ran them close. What does this tell the Indian team, which are most likely going to be will be facing this English side in the semi-finals?
Well, they'll have seen what the Sri Lankan bowlers did in particular, because Sri Lanka was not defending a big total. I think you have to, in this format of the game, and particularly in Australia, you must get at least 160, which is asking the opposition to get 8 runs and over. That gives your bowler some total, some sort of cushion to fight with. And if the Sri Lankans can run them close, defending only 140, their spinners bowl so well. So I think that's maybe an indication for the Indian team what they should be looking to do tomorrow as well. Because this is a game against Zimbabwe where they can experiment just a little bit with that spinner, with that one spinner. Maybe give Chahal a go and see what he does against him. If he bowls well, if he gets his line right, if his rhythm is right, who knows? Because India should beat Zimbabwe. 9.5 times, 9.99 times you'd beat Zimbabwe. And again, like the point that I made, I know they've got Sikandar Raza in their team who bowls a bit of leg spin. But traditionally, non-subcontinent teams have struggled against good quality wrist spin bowling. So give Chahal an opportunity, see how his confidence is, and then maybe you can decide whether he should play against England or not. If India, obviously India having beaten Zimbabwe, then go on to play England in Adelaide.
Okay, interesting point Sanibhai makes about that change in the playing 11. I'd want to, speak to you a little bit more about that. How can that change be done? How the two teams are planning this encounter. You had mentioned that maybe a chance to experiment, bring in a UZ Chahal for R. Ashwin. What we're getting to hear from the team management, because we spoke to them earlier during press conferences, and we were made to believe that the reason Ashwin is playing ahead of a UZ Chahal is because at number 8, they don't want tail to start. And Ashwin brings that kind of cushion from number 8 onwards, because Akshar batting at 7. You think still worth risking going in at number 8, you'd get a bowler? Or do you think to accommodate UZ Chahal, you need to bring in Harshal Patel, then he bats at 8, and then that problem is sorted?
Well, if you're going to depend on number 8, what does it tell you about your top 7 then? Is the management saying they don't have confidence in the top 7 in a 20 overs game? I can understand a 50 overs game, you look to have a little more batting depth. But in a 20 overs game, if you think that the top 7 are not going to bat the 20 overs and get you enough runs, then I don't know. But look, at the end of the day, they have seen the opposition, they've got their strategies done, and as of now, being in a position to top the group, we've got to back them. I personally think that I think because against Netherlands as well, I wanted Chahal to play. Mainly again because, the Dutch don't really play quality leg spin. And again over here, because unless you have somebody playing in a match, suddenly to throw him in at the deep end is not very fair to that person either. But if they go on with the same lineup, that is also fine because you don't want too many changes as well. Ideally for me, a leg spinner should play against Zimbabwe. These are big side boundaries. Maybe at Adelaide you might think again, but these are big side boundaries, and play a leggy.
The other one that people are speaking about is maybe should Rishabh Pant be drafted in for a Dinesh Karthik. I heard, former Australian captain, your good friend Ian Chappell saying that, listen, leaving Pant out of the 11 is almost criminal. But how do you fit him in? Because Dinesh Karthik bats at number 6. And if you bring Pant in and DK goes out, there is no number 6 batsman. Because if Hardik bats at 6, maybe too lower for him. Pant batting at 6, again maybe lower for him because he's a top order batsman. Then who eventually bats at 6?
Look, if you think that you need a number 8 in a 20 overs game, then it doesn't really show that much confidence in your top 7 batting. Yes, I know the batting has not quite, apart from Kohli and Suryakumar Yadav and Hardik Pandya to an extent, and Rahul in the previous game, it really hasn't clicked. I understand that. But if at number 8, you're picking somebody because he can bat at number 8, that's not the way you should be looking at going. And just taking for granted, and in this game you cannot really take anything for granted, that India will be able to beat Zimbabwe. This again is an opportunity to try somebody like a Rishabh Pant. Give him an opportunity, let him bat up the order, let him bat at 5. Don't worry about who's coming at 6, 7. Let him bat after Suryakumar Yadav at 5. Whether he gets 4 overs, 5 overs, or whether he gets 10 overs. Let him show what he's capable of. Let him play. Let him get some game time. So again, then if you want to pick him in the semis, you pick him in the semis.
Okay, finally, when we're looking at this particular encounter, you think that had, let's say, India been playing in, let's say, Adelaide or Sydney, where it's batting-friendly conditions, because India's got such a strong batting lineup, the gap between the two teams would have been big. But when you play in bowler-friendly conditions, like in Perth, where Zimbabwe upset Pakistan, here also we saw the India-Pakistan game wasn't really easy to bat on. Does that probably reduce the gap between the two teams? And if any place Zimbabwe would be looking to do an upset, Melbourne, Perth, those kind of venues would be the ones?
Yes, certainly, because the longer boundaries makes it that much more difficult to hit the 6s, which means that you'll have to play smart cricket, which is what Bangladesh didn't. Bangladesh tried to play the 6th game and they lost wickets. If they'd even looked at looking to play the first 3-4 deliveries, bang, 2, maybe the odd boundary. And then when it came to the 5th and 6th ball, if they had not got run, then go for the big shot instead of going from the first or the second ball. It could have been different. But anyway, that's gone.
Right.
So the point that I'm making is that India continues to play smart cricket, and they've played some very good smart cricket against Pakistan. Smart cricket against Bangladesh, defending that total after the start Bangladesh had got. Smart cricket. I think if they do that, then the length of the boundaries won't matter.
Okay, talking about smart cricket, there's one player who's been playing very smart cricket throughout this tournament. His name is Virat Kohli, and 5th of November also happens to be Virat Kohli's birthday, and he celebrated that 34th birthday multiple times, one with his teammates, then with the media on the ground, and I'm sure thousands of fans, in fact lakhs and millions of fans across the globe may have celebrated his birthday in their own very little way. So he may have been happy cutting the cake today, but he'd be hoping that he gets to cut a cake a week later. That'd be more important.
Absolutely. On the 13th of November, after the finals, cutting a cake, swigging champagne, whatever. That'll be, I think, something that everybody would like.
All right, and he's certainly found the form that can take India to another world title. Has been in tremendous form, loves to play in Adelaide. That's where India would be playing the semi-final. I know before that there's a game versus Zimbabwe, but as I said, he's in great form, 34th birthday, and like old wine, he's getting better with age, as is very evident with all these former players singing praises of Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli, King Kohli, as he's called us. Anyway, finally, we're coming live from Melbourne. Nice weather, better from the... Yeah.
Not even a jumper.
Yes, much better weather than what we encountered when India were to take on Pakistan. Much colder then. And the good thing is that it's expected to be a bright sunny day in terms of the weather. You're going to get a full quota of 40 overs. Fingers crossed between India and Zimbabwe. And on that front, the Indian team has been very lucky. Not a single washout for the Indian team throughout this tournament, whereas other teams have had to suffer. But for a change, actually, India wouldn't mind a washout, because if it's a washout, then they're through to the semi-final without even playing a game.
Exactly. We get to share a point, and that means there will be 7 points. And if South Africa win, they might be number 2 then.
Yes.
That's the only thing.
Okay, but India would want to win, take that momentum forward into the semi-final. Adelaide could be up next. Sunny Gavaskar, thanks so much for joining us. We were coming to you live from Melbourne, but that's all that we have time for on our show.